Chapter 16, Unspoken Wars. The air outside shimmered with spring warmth, but inside the classroom, tension folded itself into every breath. The desks were arranged in groups today, a preparation for the upcoming cultural project. Group selections were made at random, which meant fate, not preference, was in charge. Alara sat still when the names were called. Her fingers remained loosely clasped, eyes down. When she heard hers paired with Aiden's, there was a faint pause in the room. A subtle flicker of surprise, like a match struck but not yet lit. Aiden didn't react outwardly, just moved over to her desk and sat beside her, exuding his usual golden boy calm. But his gaze had lost that casual arrogance. Something more complex sat in his expression now, something restless. Guess we're paired again. The universe is persistent, he said lightly, leaning back. Alara looked up at him, lips twitching. Or bored. They shared a small, charged silence. Then began planning. It was a presentation on historical love stories across cultures. The irony was not lost on either of them. As the class buzzed with activity, their corner became a quiet storm. They spoke in low voices, passing books and notes, occasionally brushing fingers. Each accidental touch lingered longer than necessary. Aiden caught himself watching her lips as she spoke. He forced his gaze away, only to meet her eyes instead. They didn't look away fast enough. That night, he dreamt of her. Not the childhood version, not even the current poised, untouchable Alara. But some fusion of both, laughing freely in a garden, sunlight in her hair, fingertips brushing his cheek like a question he couldn't answer. He woke with her name tangled in his breath and guilt crawling up his spine. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. In the days that followed, something shifted. He started waiting for her outside class. He offered to carry her books. He listened more. And Alara, while still cautious, didn't pull away immediately. Their arguments became banter. Their silences softened. One afternoon, as they reviewed their project visuals in the library, Aiden placed an old pressed rose between their books. Found it in my mom's diary. Thought it fit the theme. Alara touched the dried petals carefully. This color, she murmured. Like the ones we used to pick at your grandmother's place. You remember that? He asked, startled. She nodded. Some things stick, even when you don't want 'em to. He smiled, a quiet one. Same. And for a moment, there was no rivalry. Just two kids in borrowed time, remembering who they used to be. The school corridors had quieted, the post-club hush stretching like a soft fog across the walls. Distant laughter echoed faintly from a drama rehearsal room, but the East Wing, where the library and student council rooms sat, felt like a different world entirely. Alara stood alone in the library, sorting through printed papers for the upcoming inter-school event. Her fingers moved quickly, efficiently, but her thoughts were adrift. She barely registered the sound of the door creaking open until a familiar presence filled the room. Aiden. She didn't look up at first. She couldn't. Something about the way her heart reacted now when he walked in, like it had been waiting, even when she told it not to, was dangerous. Need help? He asked, voice casual. Too casual. Alara blinked down at the stack in her hands. Didn't know you were interested in student council work. He stepped closer, the air between them charged. I'm not. I was looking for you. That made her pause. She looked up. He wasn't smiling. Not his teasing grin, not the confident smirk he wore like a mask. He looked tired, honest. There. Why? Aiden leaned against the table, crossing his arms. Because I can't stop thinking about what you said. After the debate. About being seen. About disappearing. Alara turned away, organizing papers that no longer mattered. It was a general statement. Don't do that. Her fingers froze. Don't retreat into that place where no one can reach you, he said softly. I used to know you. Before we forgot each other. And lately. I think I want to remember. That pierced her. She faced him slowly, her voice quiet but sure. You ran away once. When I said one real thing. One honest thing. You didn't even look back. He nodded. I know. And I've been kicking myself since. I didn't know what to do with what I felt. Alara raised a brow. And what exactly did you feel? The silence that followed was thick. Aiden stepped closer, not touching, but near enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. Like I was waking up. Like I hadn't really looked at anyone in years. Until you. Alara's breath caught, but she didn't move away. Instead, she whispered, "It's not enough to wake up, Aiden. You have to stay awake." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, as if needing to ground himself, Aiden looked at the table. He picked up one of the event flyers and smiled faintly. "Do you still paint like you used to? With the pink smudges on your sleeves and charcoal in your hair?" That disarmed her. Completely. "You remember that?" He looked up, eyes soft. "I remember more than you think. I just forgot how to show it." Alara felt something shift, a slow softening. She reached for the same flyer, her hand brushing against his. They both paused, and for the first time in years, they didn't pull away. The rain had stopped by morning, but the campus still smelled of wet leaves and something heavier, unspoken. Alara walked slowly across the courtyard, her bag slung loosely over one shoulder, her steps less calculated than usual. There was a softness in the air, a lull after the storm. But inside her, it hadn't quieted. Not really. Not since yesterday. Not since that moment in the library where she had looked into Aiden's eyes and seen something real, too real. She hadn't meant to let herself feel it. That small flicker of warmth. The way her name had sounded in his voice. Like he'd been carrying it with him, fragile and precious, all this time. But she couldn't forget it. She didn't want to. Aiden sat on the edge of the science building's old stone steps, hood over his damp hair, knees drawn up. He stared at the ground, but his mind was miles away. He couldn't stop replaying it. Her voice, low and trembling, but brave. The way her fingers had curled protectively around the papers, and how, for the first time in so long, she hadn't pulled away from him. That mattered. It did. She always did that, stayed just close enough to wound him, but never let him in. But yesterday, something shifted. He felt it. He wasn't making it up. In the art room, Alara stood over her canvas, brush suspended in midair. But she didn't move. The colors blurred in her mind. Everything she wanted to paint felt too raw. Instead, she picked up her sketchbook, let the lines guide her, and without thinking, she began to draw him. Not the Aiden from the field, or the one who played the crowd, but the one who sat in quiet corners and asked questions he didn't know how to answer. She didn't realize she'd been crying until a drop smudged the edge of his cheekbone. That afternoon, they met again. Not planned, not avoidable. Near the lockers. Crowded, noisy. The kind of place you could easily pretend not to see someone. But they didn't. He saw her first, and he waited. She walked slower, then stopped a breath away. "Hi," she said. He smiled. Not the usual one. Smaller. Real. "You didn't disappear. You noticed." Silence stretched between them like a taut string. "Alara," he said, her name almost a sigh. She looked up. "We were kids, and you left." His expression faltered. "I didn't know. I didn't even realize it was you. Not until weeks ago. And now." He took a slow breath. "Now, I can't stop seeing you." Her throat tightened. "It doesn't mean anything. Childhood crushes never do." "You sure about that?" She hesitated, looked away. "I have to go. I'll wait." She turned back to him, surprised. "For what?" He shrugged, eyes steady. "For you. To come back. Or to let me in. Either way, I'll wait." And he meant it. This time, she didn't walk away angry. She walked away scared, because part of her wanted to believe him. And that was the most dangerous thing of all.